Hey YouTube, this is Nina. I'm here to finish up this book. I have a little extra time. I was going to take a nap, but I'm like, let me get it done. Therefore, I can move forward and work on something else. Um, I'm one of those people. Higher to me, and this is with me, doesn't like me slacking. And like I said, when it comes to higher moving me to do something, I would rather volunteer than to be pushed. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this chapter. And then, like I said, on the last reading, I want to go ahead and dive into that Old Testament. How you help me. It's just, I mean, we've been told so much. So now we can read it and get a better understanding. We're maturing, and we can't keep um, drinking milk, so to speak. It's time for some meat and potatoes. So we're going to dive into that next. I was going to do, I am going to still go back and do a part 2 or 3 or 4 to um, the Cherokee, Choctaw, the wars that I was doing. I still haven't gotten back to that. No fears. I'm one of those people that can't leave something incomplete. So I will be going back to that and also looking more into some of these treaties. It's interesting to read. Sometimes I'm reading and I'm heartbroken, but it's good finding and knowing the truth. So as I said, we're on chapter 14, and this is called Chow-Wauk-Hee. 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 So I'm thinking Cherokee, but it's Chow-Wauk-Hee, the first of the red men. Now 1.5 had now passed. 1.5 years had now passed since our adventurers had been landed on the continent of America, and they had become accustomed to their surroundings and the mode of their present life. The winter, fortunately, had been very mild. The winter, I'm sorry, y'all. I thought I was going to be able to sneak and eat. I'm starving, but I'm going to go ahead and wait. Put that down. Now, the winter had fortunately been a very mild one, and thanks to the fortunate circumstance through which the friends had become acquainted with the use of the meat, blood, and at last the skins too of the various animals they had now found to exist in such abundance at a little distance from their dwelling. They had been well provided with everything needful. In fact, long before the cold season had set in, Omar and Gad had succeeded in catching alive quite a number of deer and other game, the flesh of which made the most nutritious food, while their thick and hairy hides afforded excellent protection against the chill blast of the northerly winds. Hitherto, the time and attention of the members of our little party had been so engrossed by the care of providing for their mutual comfort that the nicer and nobler feelings of their souls had of necessity been forced back within the deepest recesses of their hearts. Their original language had almost entirely disappeared. A great many words of their mother tongue had been forgotten, while the many new objects they saw around them had taxed their ingenuity in inventing appropriate names. And so it happened that while they retained the guttural tones and pronunciation of their own people, the words used by the first inhabitants of the western continent had become entirely different from those of their late countrymen. Now that all the simple wants of our friends had been provided for, and for and their friendship had ripened into the most sincere and passionate love, the long pent up feelings of their hearts claimed the right of asserting themselves. The womanly charms of the maidens, which at first had filled the souls of their companions with pleasant emotions, now set their hearts on fire, and nature would no longer be denied her just rights. All the time that was not necessarily employed in the chase or the procuring of fruit, and it's like a C dot comma, the lovers now spent in each other's company, and while the girls listened rapturously to the passionate outpourings of their devoted swains, the latter felt themselves lifted into brighter regions by the loving glances of their adored sweethearts. At the distance of about a half a mile from their abode was a small but beautiful lake, whose blue and transparent waters mirrored the sky. And here was a favorite trysting place of Omar and Tamai, while Gad and Ada preferred the protecting shadow of their forest home. Often, when the labors of the day were ended and when twilight began to fall upon the earth, the son of Hiram, accompanied by Nahum's daughter, might have been seen wending their way through the dark and silent forest toward their sky-roofed temple of love. Here, in the deep solitude surrounded by patriarchal trees and the crystal liquid sparkling at their feet, and the happy lover pours his burning words into the wide open ears of his encaptured bride, unheard by any other human being, save the writer of this tale and his companions. While the privilege of the author to be present on all occasions where something interesting is going on and well supplied with all the appliances of witchcraft, I spread my magic mantle, which besides making its occupants entirely invisible at the same time, with lightning speed, carries them to the desired spot, and most respectfully invite my gentle readers to accompany me on the aerial voyage. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, step fearlessly upon the wonderful garment. It is secure and spacious, and should it be necessary, I shall be delighted to enlarge it with one word of my powerful tongue. Courage now, make yourselves comfortable. Presto, change, and up we go into unknown regions. Ha! Do you feel the cooling breeze fanning your feverish brows? You fear, you tremble. Take my hand. To fall is impossible. See yonder cloud, how swiftly it sails onward. Now it is beneath our feet. On it goes until it falls to the earth in myriads of glistening raindrops. Where are we? Behold, there the glorious sun, a fiery ball surrounded by an ocean of ice. On, my brave mantle, soar up higher and higher. Ugh, ugh. You shiver. The blood begins to freeze in your veins. No matter. This vial contains a powerful elixir. I throw it up over your heads. How delightful. How do you feel? Warm as on a 4th of July in the midst of the grateful citizens of this glorious republic. Good. I am content. And now we're near our destination. Look down. Do you behold that bed of liquid silver? It is the lake of our lovers. There, see you, that stately dark red young man? That is Omar, and the copper-colored beauty at his side is Tamai. Behold the Juno-like form, those dark almond-shaped eyes, that queenly brow. Her jetted hair falls in natural ringlets down on the well-rounded shoulders. The voluptuous bust is a delicious couch for the weary head of her chosen. There she sits on the trunk of a fallen tree, and her lover nestles at her feet. See, now his lips are parting for love's sweet communion. Be silent now, and let us alight at the foot of yonder sycamore. Hark, now he speaks. But what a lingo! You don't understand him? Well, I shall translate as the words fall from his lips. Joy of my eyes, light of my soul, as the beams of yonder sinking sun, warm and animate, the creatures of the earth, so the beams of thy glorious eyes, warm and animate my innermost heart. When I gathered the luscious fruit, when I hunted the swift doe or the swifter stag, I thought of thee. Thine image has been before my eyes, awake or asleep. For thy sake I could have done and dared everything. And when sometimes almost insurmountable difficulties arose in my path, the thought of thee sustained me and always made me victorious. When first I beheld thee near the banks of the endless water, my heart was filled with pleasant emotions, and I resolved to be thy friend and protector. Then I did not understand the emotions that were born in my heart, and I only knew that thou wert dear to me. But since then the feelings of my heart have grown into strong, all-absorbing love. And now, love, the voice of the nature has spoken within me, and now I claim thee for my own. I feel it within me that man and woman must have been created for some grand and noble purposes. The voice that spoke within me said that you had been made to sweeten my existence, and therefore let us be forever united. Let us share our mutual duties, and let it be our highest aim to render each other happy. The speaker ceases and fondly looks up into the eyes of his companion to note the effect of his words. But what is the matter with you, my brave companions? You look incredulous, and mysterious whisperings seem to indicate that you do not believe me. Oh, you do not understand that so uncivilized a being as this Omar undoubtedly is should use such language, which, although bold and to the point, would certainly lead to the belief that he who spoke it must be a man of some refinement and culture. That's it, is it? Why, bless your dear innocent souls, don't you know that entire speech is but a translation? What could it have availed either you or me had I repeated the exact and almost unpronounceable words he uttered? You would not have understood them at all, and therefore they would not have interested you. It is the meaning not only of the few sentences, but also of the looks and gestures accompanying them that we want. And this I have endeavored to give you to the best of my ability. So much for that. And now let us look at the lovely Tamar, how radiant she looks, how that happy smile illumines her brown features. She has eagerly devoured the words of her handsome lover and not even blushed. Pure, simple, and innocent child of nature. With the nobility of a queen she arises. For one moment she stands proud and erect, her eyes looking unspeakable feelings. Then she slowly raises her right arm heavenward. Beloved, I am thine, thine through sunshine and darkness, thine to share the duties that await us, thine forever. This ceremony, so imposing in its very simplicity, is important. Thus Omar and Tamai are married. Rapturously, the young husband strains his adored bride to his bosom, and the first fervent kiss seals the sacred compact. The twilight now has vanished and night has set in. One by one, the stars begin to peep out from the azure sky, while far off in the east Luna appears on her solitary walk, and in the pale cold light of the goddess of night, the wedded pair wend their way homeward. We too, gentle readers, must now think of returning, for the night air is chill and longer exposure so near the banks of that beautiful lake might cause us a cold as a reward for our temerity. On, brave mantle, and carry thy precious load far up above the mighty forest back to the place whence we started. In the meantime, Omar and Tamai had reached their forest home, where by a singular coincidence or by preconcerted arrangement, Gad and Ada had also gone through the important ceremony of marriage. The congratulations, therefore, were mutual, and after a brief general conversation, the blushing brides were led to the couches of their new-made lords. The next morning broke bright and glorious. The denizens of the forest had left their lairs, and the brides were singing the last stanzas of their morning hymn. But around the hollow tree all was silent. Contrary to their usual custom, the young people were not yet in bed, and the sun indicated the 10th hour before they arose. But now the log was rolled away from the entrance of the hut, and arm in arm the two husbands and their smiling wives appeared in the aperture. The serene and contented expression of the faces of all showered that they were happy indeed, and after mutually expressing their surprise at the lateness of the hour, our married folks at once made preparation for the joyous festival. A stately deer that had been secured on the previous day was brought forward, and while the two men were set to work to skin and cut the animal, a process that was now greatly facilitated by Omar having, after long and arduous labor, succeeded in sharpening a piece of very hard wood in such a manner as to make it serve all the purposes of the modern knife. The women went to gather fresh fruit and fill their cocoa shells with water. No cooking, roasting, or baking being required, the frugal meal was soon prepared, and then our friends sat down to partake of the festive repast. But the order of things was changed. Hitherto, while at the meals, the young men had found their greatest pleasure in serving their fair companions, but now the latter thought it their duty to lighten as much as possible of the labors of their husbands, and in turn now awaited on their masters, who also earnestly remonstrating at first against the unwonted proceedings, soon began to feel and enjoy the comfort of being served. And from that time, the Indian wife gradually became the slave of her husband. The meal of Omar, Gad, and their brides was in every respect a happy and joyous one. The meat was raw, and there were no artificial drinks to stimulate the appetite. But these luxuries were unknown to the friends, and therefore not missed. One thing every member of the little party possessed, which gave flavor to their beings and zest to their enjoyments, this was the knowledge of being loved by the object of their heart's choice. When the repast was ended, the two families went on a short hunting and exploring expedition, and the rest of the day was spent in social sports. Thus the companions again lived on Happy and content, their simple wants were easily supplied, and as now the women faithfully shared all the toil and labor of their husbands, their days glided by in harmony and comfort. Another year has passed away, and Tamai and Ada have become mothers. This was a new phase in the life of our adventurers, and great had been their rejoicings when the first wail of the infants had fallen upon the ears of the overjoyed parents. Chow-Wauk-Hee, my firstborn, cried Omar, when Tamai presented him a plump and chubby little son. Mohiga, the beautiful one, echoed Gad, when Ada showed him a lovely little daughter. The measure of happiness in the little circle was now full, thanks to their vigorous constitutions, their simple and frugal habits, and above all, their lives full of healthful exercise in the open air. The young mothers arose a few days after birth, well and strong as ever, while the children were as healthy and full of life as young kids. It is possible to describe the pleasure with which the young fathers now went forth to provide game, fruit, and other necessaries for their beloved ones at home, while the mothers were busy in the interior of their wigwam, moving about with anxious caution as not to awake their sleeping babes, or sat their little ones hanging on their breasts, impatiently awaiting the return of their husbands, to which they now felt themselves bound by a strong additional tie. All now had a new object to live and to care for, and never yet has Lioness watched more anxiously over her whelps than did Omar and Tamai, Gad and Ada over their offspring. The children were perfect counterparts of their respective parents, and thanks to the constant and watchful care of the latter, the former grew up in vigor, beauty, and amiability. In due time, Chow-Wauk-Hee and Mohiga were able to leave the parental dwelling, and then they not unfrequently accompanied their sires on their hunting expeditions, while the latter strictly observed the divine command, "Be fruitful and multiply," their families becoming enlarged by some new addition at each natural interval. And thus time passed on. 21 years have rolled down the stream of time into the boundless ocean of eternity, and the increase of their numbers has obliged the two families to separate and seek different dwelling places. It is a lovely morning in that delightful season known as the Indian summer. Again I spread my magic mantle. Again I invite my gentle readers to accompany me on an aerial voyage. And again that brave and useful garment soars up into the sky with its precious load of civilized beings. This time not a single cloud is visible in the azure of the higher regions, and our view is unbounded. The King of Day sends down his warming and animating rays in unbroken splendor, and in his glorious light glitter the broad streams, the dense forests, and the lovely valleys that separate us from our destination. Near that silvery lake, the end of our former journey, we again descend and cordially greet our old acquaintances, the patriarchal trees, and the waves of liquid crystal. Behold yonder procession of the copper-colored sons of the forest. How elastic and joyous is their step. Now they have arrived on the banks of the lake, and see, they are forming a ring around their leaders. Those two stately men in the prime of life are Omar and Gad. The still and blooming dames at their sides are Tamai and Ada, and the motley group of young men and women, boys and girls that surround them are their children, all as brown as their parents. Gently ripple the transparent waters of what beautiful lake, and toward its opposite shores are the eyes of the assembled people directed. What next? Strain your eyes, my brave companions. What see you? Nothing? Well, I declare, I too see her. There it is, a bark canoe shoots from under yon overhanging boughs. It comes nearer. See how swiftly it goes? Now you can see its occupants. One is a young man standing tall and erect. He is at least 6 feet high. He is dressed in the glossy skin of the black bear. The other is a girl. How beautiful. What a faultless form. She is dressed in the snowy hide of the white deer. And now the young men on our side of the lake are cheering the newcomers. They speak among themselves. Let me listen. I will try to catch the meaning of what they say. Now I have it. Yonder brown sailor is to be married. The maiden in the prow of the boat is his bride. They have gone to the opposite shore to hunt their wedding garments, and see, they have succeeded. They are returning victorious. Their dresses are new. The blood on the inner side of the skins is yet smoking. Hurrah for the bold hunters. Now they have landed. They go straight up to Omar and his companion, while the children of the latter stand smiling around. Hark! The tall hunter speaks. He declares his love for his fair companion. He asks Gad and Ada to give him their daughter. They smile. Their consent is given, and the happy bride sinks into the outstretched arms of her stout lover. Now all embrace. Omar and Tamar raise their hands in solemn benediction. Be happy, my children, falls in earnest tones from the former's lips, and the ceremony is over. The lovers are married. For some moments all is silent. Then a mighty shout reverberates through the dark forest, and echo carries it far out over the country. Long life and prosperity to Mahiga, the flower of the wilderness. Long life and prosperity to Chow-Wauk-Hee, the bold hunter. And thus, my brave companions, we will leave the first of the red men, the first natives of our glorious continent, while our novel conveyance carries us quickly and safely back to the place whence we started. The end. And that's the end, y'all. Thank you for listening. I got through a book, and it feels good. I haven't finished a book in years. Do you hear me? So, leave your comments, and we're going to move on. I hope everyone has a good day, and I'm out of here.